What's good, everyone? Welcome to the next lesson. Today we will be creating assets. We'll be creating textures, and not the beautiful ones that I can guarantee, and some of you may scratch your head looking at them, but we'll be creating sufficient ones. Shitty enough is fair to say. And the best part is we'll create everything from scratch, so you'll see how this world comes to life from the very beginning. Let's jump right into it. At this stage, ideally we have a good understanding of this world we are about to create. We did this whole research for a good reason, or at least I hope so. We keep in mind the color palettes, we keep in mind the entourage. Now we are trying to create assets that match this world as closely as possible. And make no mistake, this is a challenging task. We are at the same time creating a lot of assets of various types, so let's do this step by step.
When it comes to textures, we generated lots of different ones. We can take a look at them. I let them play in the background. There's always a prompt next to it. And these are various colorful graphics, mosaics and different things. Even colorful ancient graffiti. In our case, the exact shape and form didn't matter that much. We cared about the color mostly. We would apply those textures on top of our pillar assets mostly. That extra sprinkle of color should be nice and should fit the color scheme. So, let me show you how to generate these kinds of things. Let's say we can generate a colorful mosaic. We can add some words we used for the research, so let's add a Silk Road style and a Kathmandu temple style. And of course, if we generate something like this, we need to remember to generate in a square format, so it makes more sense as texture. And if we generate it just like that, we will come across a problem. Not a big one, but a problem. It won't be tileable in any way. As we can see, there are elements sticking out that don't connect on the other side. And to solve this problem, we simply add a hyphen tile at the end. And now it should have this seamless aspect implemented. Meanwhile, I run another generation and change the mosaic to relief. It should be something more interesting. We can already see, even with this example here, that all connects well. And now we want to share a really cool trick which makes creating the textures so much easier and honestly more fun. So what we can do here is to click zoom twice. Fast forward, we have the texture just like that. And it looks like it's tiling, but actually it's not. You can see that there is no tile tag under the prompts. There's just the model and stylized at 200. But thankfully that's an easy fix. We can actually remix and do subtle or strong variations. This will keep the consistency of our generations and just make it tileable. We just add hyphen, tile, and that's that. And boom! We've got a slightly larger scale. The best part about it is that you can zoom out as many times as you like. Let's just make sure it's actually tileable though. The last patch looks very close to the initial image, except that the center is now on the edge, but that should be fine. Okay, we are in Photoshop. Let's quickly check how the tiling looks. We'll just copy it in every direction. And there's really nothing to complain about. We've just created a seamless texture out of thin air. How cool is that? Okay, that was all about creating textures. Pretty straightforward things.
If you really want to, you can also generate normal or displacement maps. You can go this extra mile. And for this particular project we didn't do it, because we just wanted to use only the diffuse maps and see how far we go, but yeah. There's different solutions to creating normal maps, to creating displacements or depth maps. And you can even do displacement maps with Photoshop. There is Neural Filter which does it. It's not perfect, but if you want something fast, you can try it out. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's skim through 3D assets now. Same as before, you can see the generations and prompts, different monstrosities. At the beginning there were various figures. We start off with ancient circle of Kathmandu stone statues. It's honestly pretty insane what you can create. Up until now we're bound to using whatever is available online, but now we are kings of this castle. After a while, we also add prompts like, I don't know, sinister, ancient, and then we get some kind of monster. It's a bit unsettling, but let's say it's art. We are also starting to generate some architectural forms in between. We experiment with anything that comes to our mind. We start adding elements like Geiger style, Lovecraftian. We just have some fun at this point. Mixing it up, we try to go quite broad and get inspired by what we receive. We don't need to use absolutely everything, we just don't want to stop the flow. Eventually, we can decide whether we want to really go wild, using assets that are very bizarre, or we can take a safer route. We are also always considering if something is not a bit too cheesy, there's a fine line and you should always consider it cheesy. But anyway, we generate a lot of statues, various architectural portals, some arches, sometimes going for a very specific style, sometimes much more naturalistic. We use prompts like front view, no background to make our next tasks a bit easier. If we add front, it really helps us in a typical architectural facade perspective. Moving on, we also generate people. In this case, it's extremely important to think about their placement in the scene. Most likely we won't get a full 3D character. We know they will likely be mutilated by AI generators from the other side. So we need to generate separate images looking from the front and from the back. Another thing to consider is the lighting. For our particular case, we can do anything. We'll have a heavy post-production, so we can get out of any situation. But it's always worth considering. Some of these assets might actually turn out to be quite versatile, even in a 360 view. We'll see, you never know. Then we have some standing characters. We generate them just like before with the Midjourney characters. We capture a fragment and then use pan and upscale to expand into the entire silhouette. From this silhouette, we'll create a 3D model. Moving on. When we are finished with the characters, we started generating animals. We had so much fun exploring those. We created an ancient Kathmandu animal with piles of sophisticated woolly colorful fabrics on his back. Not in a million years we would find assets like those. It's a super niche animal to begin with, and on top of that it's filled with junk on the back. It's extremely unique and pretty damn cool. Similarly, we generate camels. They are loaded with different items as well. In this case, we go for the side view, which gives very concept art-like generations. Honestly, you can experiment with different views and see what works best for you. Going back to architecture again, we are doing a set of storefronts. We create a lot of these open shops. It all perfectly captures the vibe of a merchant place. We use front view prompts to make them. Those are all typical fillers that might even disappear in the scene later. We also tried blending images to create assets. That was rather a failed experiment, but nonetheless quite interesting. We used the blend feature in Midjourney and uploaded a couple of different images. A mix of Wild West wagons and some Ottoman tents. We got various hybrid forms which work nicely on paper, but we got better results using prompts. You can see similar assets using prompts here. Ultimately, we end up with some pretty cool and unique assets, lots of different ones. After generating these images, we move into Photoshop, just like we did earlier with people. Cut the background out and generate 3D assets. At this stage, it's a walk in the park. We did it numerous times. But if you missed the earlier lessons, there's a site called Tripo3D where we upload to the images and it literally spits out 3D models. Someday may be a better tool for generating 3D topologies comes up, and when it does, go for it. Here you can see clearly what level is good enough. We have all the generations we've done, starting from those cars to all these storefronts. And of course, it's often a very simplified geometry. As we can see, the depth isn't particularly impressive, but honestly, if it's not in the foreground of a scene, we don't need more than that. Sometimes we even get lucky and get a decent generation from the back. With those arches, we didn't get as lucky as we'd hoped to get, but that's fine. We have animals, we have people. With this camel, we had a side view and Tripo did a great job generating this whole model. We see that from both sides this camel is basically quite alright. It's not perfect, but it definitely feels okay. When it comes to characters, we didn't get that lucky again. That's why we created both frontal and backside generations. We see that this character has hair on each side of the head, which is quite funny if someone is a character artist. I bet seeing this makes your soul leave your body. but well, it's how it is. Great, that's about it.
Ultimately, we end up with something cool. For us, these 3D elements were more than enough. There are quite a few assets and we would never ever model them from scratch. It's not perfect, but you already know how those assets will eventually look like. So you can trust us on that one. Fantastic. And in the next lesson, we put everything together and render it out. Quite a straightforward lesson, short and sweet, so see you there.